Alright, fight fans, welcome to Octagon Control MMA. I'm Dan. Today we're going to be talking about Francis Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic, hard name to say. 2. It's not been officially announced yet, but it's been spoken about a lot. They're looking to do it in April of this year. It'll be a pay-per-view main event, I imagine, heavyweight world title fight. It is a rematch. We fought in January 2018. Stipe won that by unanimous decision. It was very dominant decision. Francis didn't look like he was ever going to win that after the first couple of minutes of the first round. But it was 3 years ago now, and it'll be 3.5 years ago near enough by the time this fight actually takes place from the sound of things. I'll talk a little bit about Stipe first, then Francis, then do a side by side. I'll talk a little bit about the last fight as well, and what I think each of them needs to do to win, and then my pick for the fight. Okay, so Stipe first. His last 3 fights has been his trilogy with Daniel Cormier. That has been over 3 years as well, so he's only fought once a year since he fought Francis. July 2018, August 19 and August 20. Lost the first one to Daniel Cormier by round 1 knockout. Second one by round 4 TKO, he won. And then he won the last one this year by decision. All the second 2 at least, very competitive fights. I think the most recent one is obviously most important to talk about. Relatively dominant decision. Very nasty eye pokes from both fighters in this one. It was a very enjoyable fight to watch. It's UFC 252, which for my money wasn't the most stacked card. I mean, Sean O'Malley, Chito Vera was the co-main event, which I think is why it only did 500,000 buys. I appreciate JDS and Rosenstruck were on the card as well, but I would expect Stipe Francis to do a lot more buys than his previous bouts on pay-per-view. Daniel Cormier and Imp trilogy was good. It wasn't the world's most exciting one. I think that's because it took a full 3 years to actually come to fruition. And after he lost the first one, he sort of sat in the corner and probably got an immediate rematch, which I'd argue he didn't deserve. I think after getting knocked out in the first round, he probably should have had to fight someone else before he got the second fight. But that was by the by, so he came back, won the second 2, and he's still the heavyweight champion. Alright, talk a bit about Francis now. Much different since he fought Stipe, again January 2018. He's got 4 first round knockouts in his last 4 fights. None of them going past the first minute really. I think Cain Velasquez was 1 minute and 10 seconds, but all the others were inside the first minute. And you've got to think that's Rosenstruck, JDS, Velasquez, Curtis Blades. These are big guys in the heavyweight division. I appreciate Cain and JDS are probably towards the end of their careers. I think that was Cain's last fight, if I remember rightly. Excuse me. But again, very entertaining fighter, even if you only see him for 1 minute or 2. You know what his game plan is, and you know what his best chance of winning is as well. Well, it is worth mentioning, after he fought Stipe, he did lose a decision to Derek Lewis. So he was on a 2-fight skid at that point, but he bounced back very well. And I think that's why a lot of people are hyping him to win this one against Stipe in the rematch. But I'm not 100% sure. Okay, we'll talk about a little bit about the last fight now. There's a little bit of a highlight reel of that fight going on above me right now. Well, above and to the left or to the right, I can't remember which side of the screen I sit on. Stipe was very dominant in this one though. I think Francis gassed. He had no answer for Stipe's wrestling. Stipe got him down when he wanted, held him down when he wanted. Probably not the most active fight, and in the later rounds definitely were both looking very tired, but Stipe definitely very dominant. I don't think anyone argued with the decision. Very dominant win for Stipe, and thoroughly deserved win. Alright, we'll do side by side now, the 5 attributes. We've got striking, grappling, chin, gas tank and excitement. Alright, so first off, I'm going to give a striking to Ngannou purely for his knockout power. I mean, it is worth mentioning that 15 of Stipe's 20 wins have come by knockout. But Ngannou's just got the one punch power, finishes people in the first minute. Like I say, he's finished his last 4 fights in the first minute by knockout. So I don't think you can really argue that. But Stipe is a very powerful striker, very heavy hands. Ngannou's also got a slight reach advantage over him. I think Ngannou's 83-inch reach, Stipe's about 80. But I don't think that's going to make a massive difference with the style that Stipe fights with. Okay, next we'll move on to grappling. Got to be Stipe all the way on this one. He dominated Francis on the floor in the last fight, held him down, moved through the positions on the floor at will. Francis didn't seem to have much answer for him there. And Stipe is a very high level wrestler as well. Probably haven't seen it recently because he's been fighting Daniel Cormier the last 3 fights. And that's probably not someone you want to do too much wrestling with unless you have to. Okay, moving on to chin next. Probably going to go to Francis on this one, purely because he's never been finished. I mean, I appreciate this was a long time ago, but Stipe did get knocked out by Stefan Struve. It was in 2012, so 9 years ago near enough. But Francis has never been stopped. His 2 UFC losses have been to Stipe and Derek Lewis, both by decision. But I think Francis has never really looked like being finished, even though Stipe was very dominant. He never really looked like finishing Francis in a fight. So Francis has probably got a slight advantage there. Right, gas tank, definitely going to Stipe on this one. He's got far more experience later in the fights. Actually, he's just fought Daniel Cormier to a decision at the midpoint of last year. Francis, I think he's a victim of his own success when it comes to that. His actual octagon time in the last 2.5 years has been less than three minutes, maybe a little bit over 3 minutes, but like I say, less than a round of time in the last 3 years, whereas Stipe's gone 25 minutes and 20 minutes with a former world champion in Daniel Cormier. So yeah, I think Stipe's definitely got a much better gas tank, at least that we've seen. I'm sure Francis does train for the full length of the fights that he participates in. I mean, the vast majority of his recent fights have been main events, so they have been scheduled for 5 rounds. I'm assuming he trains for 5 rounds, but I think he does start to fade after the first round relatively significantly. Alright, excitement factor, probably Francis on this one, purely because of his knockout rate. I mean, a lot of people seem to like the first minute knockouts. I think I wanted to watch a fight, I want to watch more than a minute of it. Don't get me wrong, it's exciting to see knockouts, but if people are going to finish all the fights in a minute or 2, I'd much rather see a 3rd, 4th round knockout than a first round knockout, if that makes sense, just so you can actually watch a bit of fighting before the finish comes. Alright, so that'll round up the side by side. Now I'll talk about what each of them needs to do to win. So I've probably alluded to a little bit. Francis needs the early knockout in this one. I think that's what he went for last time as well, but he couldn't quite get it. I think that's definitely been his game plan since. Excuse me. Yeah, but he needs to get a knockout in the first round, definitely. Probably in the first minute or 2. I think after round 2, he really starts to fade and his chances of winning drop drastically. Stipe, on the other hand, I think all he needs to do is weather the early storm. And if he can get out the first round, I'd say the odds will shift massively in his favour if it goes to round 2. I think Stipe is coming in as an underdog to this fight, as he did in the last one though. Again, it's surprising for a world champion to come in as the underdog, but it does happen. And I think that's purely because Francis has finished his last 4 opponents within the first minute of the fight. But Stipe, all he needs to do, in my opinion, is get through the first round, grind Francis down, and I could easily see him getting a finish this time in the 3rd or 4th round maybe. But if not, a relatively dominant decision win for Stipe. Right, so my pick, it's going to be Stipe. I've got Stipe. I'm going to go Stipe by decision. The odds haven't come out yet for anything extensive. I think Stipe is a plus 150 to win. I think Francis is a minus 180, something of that nature. Again, just very basic odds, quite relatively close that you'd expect at this point in the fight build-up. But I see Stipe by decision coming in about plus 300. I think that's quite a good bet to put on if anyone is a gambling man. So yeah, we'll look at it like that. Alright, that's going to round me up for today. UFC is back next weekend with Cater versus Holloway. I'll be doing a video about that, probably releasing on Wednesday. And I may have a dabble with the rest of the card. Probably just the main card. I might do one video just on all the main card fights. Just so put a bit of background out for a few of those fighters. There's a fight midweek, Chiesa Magny, a headline in that one. Originally meant to be Leon Edwards versus Chimaev, which everyone was very excited for. The Magny Chiesa fight the Magny Chiesa card, that's actually a very good fight. But the card itself, I mean, the hardcore fans may enjoy it, but for just the casuals, I don't think there's too many names people will have heard on that card. But I will talk a little bit about the undercard, obviously, as well, just so everyone's got a bit of a backstory going in. Alright, fight fans, that's been all for today. You're watching Octagon Control MMA. I've been Dan. See you all in a week. Take care.